Welcome back to What's Your Story? This is the 13th episode and episode number 9 of our Life Dream series. And today I'll be speaking from chapter 8 in my DREAMER'S INK book, which is titled Dreamers Change Generations. And we'll get into that in a minute, but I want to also share a little story that I wrote in the DREAMER'S INK book. You'll find it on page 64. And I was just writing one day and about father's love. I didn't have a father growing up. He left when I was 3. I had many stepdads, and some actually cared about me, and some I felt, tolerated me. But when I found Father through Jesus, I found everything. And so I wrote this story. It's called A Father's Love. And it says, a man looked up to heaven one day, a bit irritated by his circumstances, and asked, "Father, do you really love me?" Father's response was so quick, unexpected, and loud that it startled the man. "Yes, my son, you know I do." A long moment passed, and the man asked a little more hesitantly, "Well, why don't you care that these people are stealing from my business and hurting me and my family? I would really like some justice from you over my enemies." Father replied tenderly, "My son, you know I love you." "Yes, I do know you love me, and I can see some of the ways you do. But what about this area?" The man questioned further as he elaborated on every detail a bit more boldly. Now that he was aware he had Father's full attention, he was more than ready to hear his reply. Well, immediately the man was standing before the throne of heaven. His body became weak and his legs crumpled underneath him. The fear of the Lord was all over him as he felt holiness and pure love encompass his whole being. He was also vividly aware that this was the place of judgment. His body started shaking as Father began to show him areas in his own life where he was doing the same kind of things to others. The man, aware for the first time of his sin, began to cry out, "Mercy, mercy, mercy, Lord. Have mercy on me. Forgive me. I forgive those who are hurting me. I let go of the bitterness in my heart. Heal me. Please do not hold it against me or them. I understand now. I can see. They don't know what they are doing." Father's voice echoed throughout his courtroom as he issued his decree. "Done. Now I will give you justice. I will deal with the darkness, the demonic forces in my wrath, and will reveal my mercy and forgiveness to the ones who hurt you. Now, you go and show them my love and forgiveness." The man, humbled by what he had seen and experienced, saw that Father indeed loved him, and it was by his mercy and awesome love for him that he had delayed justice. He realized that if he had received the justice he had asked for against his enemies, it would have also judged him severely. He received a whole new perspective that day. "Father, I see you are just, and you don't want any to be lost. Thank you for your kindness to me and my family. Most of all, thank you for helping me understand that you have the whole world on your shoulders. I only operate in my own little sphere of influence." And I wrote that back in 2012, and it's meant the world to me. Well, today I want to go on and talk to you about dreamers change generations. And if we look back in history, we can look back at the Bible for those that were in the Old Testament and the New Testament. They were dreamers. They were given a dream by God. They were given a commission, if you will, by God. He wanted them to do certain things, and he empowered them to do it by his grace and his power. We can look at Paul. We can look at Daniel, at Joseph, at Moses, at the kings in the Old Testament and everything. So we have the Bible there. We have Henry Ford, who was in the 1900s, and what he did with the automobile. We have Martin Luther back in the 1500s. He was bold enough to get up and, put his 99 Thesis, I think it was. I think that was the number. And he nailed it to the Catholic Church, and they could have killed him. He stood up for what he believed. And then you have Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who changed generations too with his I Have a Dream. And his dream was for all people to come back together again. And look what he's done. Some people it's cost their lives. Some people were allowed to live. We have some of the early apostles. They were killed. John was allowed to live. And, we don't know why, but maybe one day we will. And we have Thomas Jefferson, who's probably most famous for the biggest amount of failures with the incandescent light bulb. Over 10,000 ways he found that didn't work. So did he fail or did he succeed with each one because he crossed off what wouldn't work and kept pursuing what might have worked, and he found it. We have the Wright brothers who dared their lives in flying and getting off the ground, and they survived it. And we have songwriters from of old, from of new. We have artists, we have authors, and we have inventors. We have business owners that do new concepts, and so we have architects, designing some of the wildest looking buildings in the world and bringing change there. And something I'm familiar with, is electric guitar. And, this is a model, it's a Behringer. It's similar to the Fender Stratocaster, which is one of my favorites. And, the guitars have evolved over the years, and I actually have an invention that I'm working on right now. And hopefully we get it out on the market soon. So if you're listening to this and I haven't gotten it done and you want to help, let me know. We have some of the older style pedals for the guitar that change the sound of the guitar. We have a distortion pedal here. And over the years, they've taken on a lot of new looks. We have a crybaby effects pedal. And then we have one here that's digital, and it does lots of different sounds. And you can use these also to program them a little bit as well. So these were all done by inventors. These were all done and created by dreamers. Somebody started the trend, and then somebody else came along and perfected it. And it's even gone further than this now. So, are dreamers important? Are you a dreamer? Dreams are not easy to accomplish. And as we look back through the Bible, we can see that some dreams cost people their lives. If we look into our modern times, we can see that some dreams cost their lives. But each dreamer brought something new to our world. And sometimes it's convenience. Some dreamers bring things to our world that are not good. We can create for good, we can create for bad. We can create tools that are not evil nor bad, but it's the way people use them. They can use them for evil, for good. It's like this guitar. You can play music on it, and you can write lyrics that can help the world, or you can write lyrics that can help destroy it. And the things that we hear over and over again get put into our bodies and our brains and our soul, and it starts to propel us a certain way. It's James in the Bible talks about it. This little rudder that's on the back of this huge ship is just a little thing. And it's like the tongue, and it steers the whole boat. And our tongues, the words that we speak, can bring life or can bring death. Because what we tell ourselves, what we speak out, what we hear back, tells our brain to do certain things in our body. And we can shut ourselves down. We can help energize ourselves strictly by what we speak and what we believe. So it's very important that we stay around positive thoughts and we speak positive and not negative. You know, the law of attraction, you attract that which you speak. You know, you reap what you sow. Some people call it karma. But every dream is tested by fire. And I want to go here into the book. It's on page 75 if you have your book. So 1 Corinthians 3, 10 through 15. Each one must be careful how he builds on it. For no one can lay a foundation other than the one which is already laid, which is Jesus Christ. But if anyone builds on the foundation with gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, or straw, each one's work will clearly be shown for what it is, for the day of judgment will disclose it, because it is to be revealed with fire, and the fire will test the quality and character and worth of each person's work. If any person's work, which he has built on this foundation, that is, any outcome of his effort remains and survives this test, he will receive a reward. But if any person's work is burned up by the test, he will suffer the loss of his reward. Yet he himself will be saved, but only as one who has barely escaped through the fire. And so, you know, I know it's talking about a future event, but we are all tested in the fiery furnace here on this earth. You know, if you have a dream, the enemy's going to come against it, especially if it's a God-given dream, and so are the naysayers. Oh, you can't do that. Who do you think you are? You know, you'll never get paid for that. Well, it's not about getting paid. It's about living the dream. And if you live the dream that he's prepared for us, everything will work. And a lot of times it's going to take his power to help us. And I'll share a little bit about that here in a little bit. But we were up in Colorado Springs a couple of years ago, actually maybe a little bit longer than that. And my son and I, Daniel, we used to play a lot of basketball there. Colorado Springs is over 6,000 feet in elevation. So I was feeling like, you know, we're practicing, I'm running around, and they have this thing in Manitou Springs called the Incline. And this incline has 2,744 steps. It's almost a mile long. The starting point to the finishing point is 2,100 feet in elevation. So at the base, you're at about 6,600 feet in elevation, and the summit is 8,700. And there's an average incline of about 45%. Now, you're way up in the mountains, the air is thin, it's harder to exercise. Our Olympians train there, actually. And here I am thinking, well, I got this. You know, the basketball, we've been there for a couple of years, I'm acclimated, you know, I got this. Well, it took me an hour and 15 minutes to get to the top. And Daniel made it in 1 hour. So sometimes we're down here, you can look at the photo in your book, and it seems like we've got a long ways to go. It seems like it's super hard. We're never going to make it. My thighs were giving out, and the higher I got, the more I was having to stop and rest. And I was like, oh man, can I go up? And you're not supposed to walk back down it. Now there is a trail at the top that's winding, and you can walk all the way back down. When I finally made it to the top, I turned around and I could see so far in the distance. I could see over all the things I couldn't see from the bottom. And about 2/3 of the way up, there's a false summit. And as you're coming up, you think, oh, we're getting to the top. And you come up over that and you're going, oh, it's still a long ways to go. And I share that because sometimes that's what it's like in our life. We're going for our dream. 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 6 steps forward, 12 steps back. Take this turn, take that turn. Are we ever going to get there? Then something happens along the way that takes a whole year out of our life. Things happen. And as I've shared in previous podcasts on this subject, sometimes those are meant to be. Because sometimes we need a break. Sometimes we need to meet somebody else. Sometimes we need more maturity. Sometimes more wisdom. Sometimes more understanding. It's like going to college. You get handed all these tools, all this knowledge and wisdom. If you go to trade school, you get tools to work with. And sometimes you can't go further down your path without a tool that you need going down there. I just wrote a new song. Janice asked me to write it. It's probably going to be called Helping Hands. And she said, you need to write a song about this. And I'm like, okay. And the next day I started writing it. I think I finished it up yesterday. But I can't do it without the proper tools. And hopefully I can learn the lead guitar part for it using this guitar and some of these. So that's what I'm going to be working on next. Can I do it? I don't know. Worst case scenario, maybe I can go on my keyboard and do like I do my other lead parts. I just play them on there. But there's obstacles in my way. We're in a hotel right now. We're looking at getting a rental home. There's problems with that. We got into an apartment a year and a half ago and thought we finally had a home base. We've been on the road for 10 years. And 4 months later, I had rashes all over my hands and feet from black mold poisoning. And it's been a year and a half trying to get through that process. And I'm still not all the way through it. So, and black mold is a neurotoxin, so it messes with your brain also. So there's these little things along the way that have tried to stop me, they've tried to hinder me. And we came up here to Houston to do an oil and gas job, which fell through, and we got stuck here. But it's a great place to be stuck here in the Woodlands. There's a lot of people that network together, and I'm meeting a lot of people who I'm hoping are going to help me go on with the music tour, help us with the movie funding, help us with the invention, and so that we can help them. Because how many of you know that when you help others, you get help back too? We're not islands. So we keep going forward. Janice's biography, her movie, it seems like it's taken forever. Her mother made me promise in 1994 when we announced our engagement to write this book. And it took me 17 years to write the black and white version, to get all the documentation, to get my heart right towards some of the family and towards others so that I could write the book unbiased. And it took me a year and a half to do the actual manuscript. And this is our collector's edition that's going to help us raise money to do the movie. So I'm using the examples in my life to let you know it's not all easy. You just don't start running up that mountain without being ready to walk up and run up that mountain. You don't learn how to fly until you learn how to crawl and you walk first. And so if you're in those places and you need encouragement, that's what this chapter is all about. Read books on people that were dreamers, that have brought change, presidents, kings, companies that have made a difference. When I was driving in Colorado Springs, I met a young lady she had a wheelchair, and both of her legs were amputated above her knees. And it wasn't done by a doctor. When she was 21 years old, she was I think she grew up in a country town. She loved riding horses, and she went out for her 21st birthday, if I remember the story correctly. She was somehow given a drug, and she woke up to a paramedic slapping her cheeks, trying to wake her up, trying to keep her conscious. She actually died 3 times on the way to the hospital. So they never found out who did it, But somebody, whether it was one of her friends or somebody else, they laid her body from right at her legs over on a railroad track. And the paramedics had come out there because somebody had found her, and she was near death, and they woke her up. They tried to keep her awake. Like I said, she died 3 times on the way to the airport. So that happened to her. She went into depression. She wanted to kill herself. She's alive now. She actually climbed that incline I was talking to you about. It took her about 2.5 hours, but she was determined. Now she's using her life to make a change. Something was taken away from her, but she took what she has left, and she's using that to make a positive difference. And, our lives are not a sprint, they're a marathon. And we finish our life race. Our life dream finishes when we take our last breath. It's not like retirement. You go and you go and you go. And the sad thing about retirement for a lot of people right now is they were promised something by our government that they didn't get. All that money that was put in there, if the government would have done what they said, they would have had a great retirement. But Congress, over the years, took money from it because it was so rich and used it on all these other programs. And now there's people that can't even retire. They can't work. And this wonderful retirement that they worked for 40 years is gone. Their health is deteriorated in some instances. They spend more time at the doctor than they did ever working every week. Their quality of life isn't what they wanted. And their dreams, where are they? You can't wait till sometime in the future to live your life, because you may not be here that long, or you may not be able to live it in the way you want. So get up every morning and go through that day and listen. Ask questions to the Lord. Ask Him what He wants you to do, and live your life day by day. You can make some long-term goals, but we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen in our world, but we can have something to focus on. When, I had the top of that incline to focus on. I could see Pikes Peak from a distance, and we drove up there. You can actually drive all the way to Pikes Peak. And the view from there is incredible. There's actually a purple tint up there, like the lady who wrote, America the Beautiful. It's all there. It's there in the physical for us to do, to see these sights and to see what these people years ago saw. What inspired them to write the poems, to write the songs, to write the books, to do the inventions. The horse and the buggy and the wagons and the first early cars and all of that. It's all from dreamers. So when people say you can't live your dreams, I say rubbish. You're a quitter. That's why you're not living your dream. Don't bully me and tell me I can't go for my dream. I'm going for my dream. And if you come along, I can help you go for your dream too. You don't have to be a quitter. You don't have to give up because somebody told you you couldn't, or somebody broke your heart over and over again, or somebody abused you, or you got a handicap, or something like that. Everybody's got a dream. If you don't have a dream, you're dead. You're gone already. You're not breathing. Everybody that's breathing, there is a dream for them. And I believe that with everything inside of me. There's a reason that God has us still here. He's not through with us yet. And it's a good thing. Life is life. He didn't do this stuff to us. He gave us the choice. He gave our ancestors the choice. And the choices they made affected our lives. But we can go back through inner healing and we can, get all the healing we need, and we can forgive our ancestors, and we can, get all the curses out of our lives to go on, but it takes time. You know, it's like going through, and I talked about this in an earlier podcast. You know, there's mental and soul healing, just like there is healing when we cut ourselves. You know, and there's scars that are left. And some of us have so many scars, we can't even feel anymore. But beloved, he wants to heal all of us. He wants us to know his love. And every single failure and mistake that we've had in our life is an opportunity to learn from, to mature from, to get stronger from. And we may repeat those mistakes a few times, who knows? But a righteous man falls 7 times. That 7 means completely. But yet he still gets up and keeps going. And none of us can do it without his help. It's in his plan. That's why he's God, and that's why we are created beings. Because he wants to be a part of our lives. He wants us to see how wonderful the plan is that he created for us. And he wants us to join together. It says the Holy Spirit knows how to place us together, how to fit us together. There are those that come alongside and want to be a part, but they're not, because they're not of the right spirit, or they just don't fit. And it's okay, because each of us fit somewhere with our talents, with our gifts, with the dreams that he's placed in us. So I think this is probably one of the most important chapters in this book. And this is chapter 8. And so we have chapter 9 and chapter 10 left. And, you know, this book was just a thought once. And here it is. It's been out for a couple of years. And now I'm doing a podcast on it to help people, help me reach people that are reading it or that are wanting to go through this. They're wanting to find their life dream and make their life better. Or they're wanting to get out of depression, get away from suicide. Whatever your reason is, it's okay. It's you. It's your life. You are who you are. And be okay with that. If you want to change it, change it. Change it one day at a time. You know, if it takes 30 days to change one thing, it's progress. Now, if you go backwards a little bit, turn around and keep going forward. That's the definition of repentance. You know, if you walk away from God, turn around, walk back to him. He's right there. You know, don't miss a beat. Just get on this path, start walking, and he's going to show you where to go. Now, if you're sitting down on the couch, praying and praying and praying and praying, but you're not doing anything, he can't do anything. He needs you to walk your dream, and he'll walk alongside of you. Adam walked with the Lord in the coolness of the day in Genesis. Read it. In the coolness of the day, okay, he wasn't sweating. He wasn't freezing. Everything was just right. He was at peace. And God wants us to walk with him every day in peace, knowing that he's got this. He's planned it. And I'm listening to my own words here, because the last 2 or 3 days haven't gone like I wanted them to go. And I've been trying to do it all. And I can't. I've been exhausted. Doing this today, I didn't even feel like doing it. And I thought, well, what can I use for the props? And we had just gotten these back from the pawn shop to help my son out with some stuff. And I was like, I had a Gibson SG-1 guitar given to me, a 61 replica. And we had to pawn it, and it's gone. See, that's only a few months ago. But we're still going forward, because we know that he told us to do this. It's not hard, but you know what? Other people are watching us. They're watching our story, and they're watching, wow, how are these guys still going? Well, there's a dream there. And we know that one day there's going to be abundance. One day there's going to be lots of people whose lives are changed because of where we're walking. One day there's going to be lots of people that are going to be around us and we're going to be friends with, because we kept going, because they kept going, because they decided to go for their dreams too. And it's going to be a big, happy get together. And we have some of those on occasion. But it's going to be better. We can change this earth. We can change this world. And it starts with each one of us. And on the tour, we'll be going around the country, eventually around the world, to help bring people together to bring change. And that's called the America Dare to Dream Tour. And we're going forward. I don't know how far we're going to get. I don't know who we need to touch. But we'll be going until he says stop. So I hope this has blessed you. Know that you're not the only one going through hardships. Everybody is. I don't care how much money they have or if they're underneath the bridge, homeless. Everybody's going through something. And if we just turn our focus towards God, ask him to direct our paths and our steps. It says the Lord directs our steps. That means we're walking. Got it? So, walk. Pick a direction, the best one that you know, walk and ask him to guide you. We're praying for you, and hopefully we can see you someday soon. God bless you. I hope you got a lot out of this. His blessings and favor on you and in your walk. And until next time, keep going for it. Fly. It's time to fly.